Welcome to the IFRS YouTube channel. Today we're going to discuss about the urinary tract symptoms and how we evaluate it, especially in a rural area. What are these symptoms? The most common symptom is called the obstructive urinary symptom. So this most commonly occurs if there is a block or obstruction to the urinary flow from the urinary bladder. First, it starts with what we call hesitancy. Normally, there is a valve or sphincter which prevents the urine from leaking from the bladder, which stores the urine. The urine comes from the kidneys and gets stored in the bladder. And then normally the bladder contracts to generate pressure so that the urine can come out. In men, this pressure is about 60 centimeters of water and 40 centimeters in women. So if there is any block or obstruction, then the bladder has to generate higher pressures to pass urine. So instead of 60, it may be 70, 80, or 90. So once you start the process of passing urine, it will take much longer than earlier to start passing urine. This symptom is called hesitancy. And initially, it may be only this hesitancy because the bladder pressure which is generated may be sufficient to help the patient pass urine. But later on, when the obstruction becomes more, the urinary stream also becomes poor. See, if you look at the urinary, when you're young, the stream can go up like that. Then with each decade, the force of the stream keeps coming down. And when you reach 70s, it almost comes down like this. So this is a second symptom, which is called poor stream. And then the third symptom is what we call intermittency. Here, what happens is that the bladder is not able to generate sustained contraction or sustained pressures to pass urine. So the force keeps going up and down. So that in between the stream is poor or the force is much less. Imagine you're walking with a suitcase in a long railway platform. If the suitcase is light and you have enough energy, you just walk through. But when you have a heavy suitcase, when you're not feeling very strength, when you feel that you don't have enough strength, then you walk slowly, keep it down for a while, take rest, and then keep walking ahead. And that is called intermittency. So it starts with hesitancy, then becomes poor stream, then finally it goes to intermittency. And once this stage is released, then you reach a stage where it is not able to completely empty the bladder. So the strength of the bladder which generates is not sufficient. So we have what is called incomplete voiding. Even after the patient passes urine, a fair amount of urine gets left behind in the bladder. So this essentially does two things. One is that you have a desire to pass urine even though you passed urine just now, because there is some amount of urine in the bladder. And also the relative capacity of the bladder becomes less. For example, if the capacity is about 500, normally you empty all the 500 and then if it fills about 100 ml per hour, it'll take 5 hours to get full again. But you're able to empty only 400 ml. Within 4 hours, it'll get filled. So the functional capacity of the bladder is also reduced. And in the last stage of these obstructive symptoms, you may not be able to pass urine at all. Or this means it goes into acute painful retention. There'll be severe pain and desire to pass urine, but the bladder muscle, especially the bladder, is stretched too much. Then it is unable to generate enough pressure to work on the sphincter and pass urine. This often happens when people postpone passing urine. For example, if they're traveling somewhere and they can't stop to pass urine, or they're not able to locate a toilet immediately, then to the time when they go into this acute painful retention. Then we have what we call irritative voiding symptoms. So this is need not be because of obstruction. This if there is infection, if there is inflammation, or if there are cancers, they cause this symptom. The first irritative symptom which people notice is nocturia. Normally, when you go to sleep, you get up only in the morning to pass urine. But then if you have irritative symptom, then you need to start getting up to pass urine at night, even though you're asleep. Then you wake up and then pass urine. This later translates to daytime frequency also. So you have more frequent passing of urine at night and in the daytime. You might also have a dysuria, burning while pass urine. This might be right through the passage of urine or at the start of the urine. And in some conditions, towards the end of passing urine. Then you also have what is called urgency. Once you have a desire to pass urine, you need to rush to the toilet. You can't hold it anymore, which if becomes severe, can become incontinence, or there may be a little bit of leak of urine with this urgency. The third most important group of symptoms is blood in the urine. Normally, you should not have blood in the urine, whether in men or women. And you need to find out if there is blood. What is the cause of urine, whether it's infection or malignancies, or whether prostate, whether stones. So whether any type of blood in the urine, whether microscopic or macroscopic, or even if there is a history of blood in the urine, they definitely need to be investigated. And a minimum of cystoscopy needs to be carried out. Ideally, cystoscopy will tell the lesion in the bladder and below that. And probably ultrasound or plain X-ray of the abdomen would be necessary for looking at whether any lesions are there in the kidney or the ureter. And then, of course, there are other symptoms like the thin stream can be due to urethral stricture or narrowing. So here, till the size of the urethra becomes about 1/3 of the original size, there may not be any symptoms. Later on, the urinary stream becomes small. And one way to differentiate is that if the patient strains, the stream improves. And then, as I said earlier, with urgency, you might have an incontinence or leak of urine, which can be either continuous or when the bladder is full, or when the abdominal pressure increases by coughing or laughing. So these conditions will tell the doctors what's the cause of the symptoms. So later on, we'll keep discussing about how we can interpret these symptoms and find out what disease is there. Thank you.